But I'm glad that we've got two young men here joining us in the studio right now to tell us about how possible that would be and what it's in the pipeline concerning the youth and the African Union Agenda 2063. Yeah, it sounds strange because like a long time. But of course, before you know, say Jack Robinson, we're already there. Joining us this morning is Jamie Pajoel. Hope I got that right. The CEO of the convener, AU Agenda 2063.
2063.
You're welcome to the program.
Thank you very much.
And of course, the guy with his own signature, the Benue guy, Bemshima Utukwa. I had to learn that over and over again.
The Benues, they have this kind of jaw. You have to open your jaw very well to
strong.
Call the names.
Yeah. You're welcome.
My pleasure.
How are you doing this morning?
We're doing good.
How's the fuel situation on your way?
Not
no,
good
they're big
at all.
boys now. AU,
they don't kill. At least it's going to affect them driving down.
Okay, the traffic and all that.
And everything.
It's affecting seriously.
Part of the problem. Hope this the agenda will address all of this.
Hopefully.
Okay. Yes, the phone line is open 0905 0098000. If you're a Nigerian youth, if you're an African youth, and you want to be part of this course, you can ask them any question, how to be part of it, what this stuff is about, anything you need to know. I mean, if you think it's shrouded in some form of security and everything, let them know. They're going to explain and break it down into details for you this morning. At the end of the day, we hope to go back, to our closet today and work hand in hand with the convener to ensure that come 2063, we'll be achieving a better, a greater Africa, where the much needed change we so desire will be staring us in the face. And of course, you can also use our various social media platforms, like us on Facebook, Rave TV channel, Twitter and Instagram at Rave TV channel, and also hashtag Morning Rave, so we can, continue the conversation there on social media. Now, first things first, the AU Agenda 2016.
2063.
Pardon me. 2063. Tell us about it.
Okay. Good morning, Nigeria and Africa. Like I said on Saturday, a lot of people have asked me a question what the AU Agenda 2063 is all about. And then I gave them a story of a young boy who grew up from a poor background, and one day he took a pen and a biro and then he wrote down some goals and dreams, and every night before he go to bed, he opened them and he said, these are my aspirations, and one day I hope to live in it. And one day the young boy woke up and just realized that he's living in his dream. And so that's, for us, the agenda is that book of hope that anytime we open it, we'll see the future, the picture of an African future. The AU Agenda 2063, it's a document that captures the Africa that we want. When you look in it, you don't see the Africa of today, you see the Africa of tomorrow. An Africa where women will be treated with love and dignity, an Africa where a young person will wake up, you're not wondering about what the future will look like because already you're living in it. So the agenda captures the picture of an African future.
So to you now, what, in addition to what he mentioned, what do you think is wrong with the Africa of today that we still need to change it by 2063?
Okay, there are so many things wrong with the Africa of today. When you look at the population of Africa and you look at the resources at the disposal of Africa, and then you look at what we how we play on the global arena, you'll discover that there's a lot that is wrong. For instance, 1 out of every 7 persons on Earth is African. About 15% of the entire population of the world. Yet we contribute just 2% of the global trade in the whole world. And we have the highest disease burden on Earth. If you come to sub-Saharan Africa right now, about 60% of all HIV cases are recorded here in sub-Saharan Africa. So there are a lot of things that are wrong with Africa, and I believe that the Agenda 2063 is going to address that with the 7 aspirations that were put down. I know that in the next 50 years, or 48 now, Africa is going to be where we want it to be.
Okay, now the Agenda 2063, I understand, is a global strategy to optimize use of Africa's resources for the benefits of all Africans. And the theme, if I'm not mistaken, is Africa Year of Human Rights, with a particular focus on the rights of women. Now, how do you expect to achieve all of this in 50 years? Now, why 50 years? Now, 50 years is a long time coming. Okay, you said it's 46 years now, 48 years now.
Yes.
It's a long time coming. Why should we hope that in this 48 years, 2 years down, even 3 years down already, how can we achieve all of this in 48 years?
I think I would like to say something on that as regards to why 50 years, why 2063. You know, I was telling him before now that one of the problems we have in Nigeria is because as a country, we only set 4 years plan.
Okay.
And that 4 year, even as an individual, you set a life plan, not even a 4 years plan. But we as a nation, we set a short-term goal that even before the challenges that we face as a country, we will not be able to achieve them. Now, setting a long-term goal helps us to focus on the long-term goal, why we utilize resources and start working on them now. I give an example. During what's the late President Yaradua, he came up with agenda, 7-point agenda.
Yeah.
Good luck came and brought Vision 2020. Now,
2020.
Buhari is here with change agenda. For me, I think that what we need, it's not individual agenda, we need a national agenda. Now, and that's what AU have done. So in the next 50 years, whoever becomes the next AU chairperson is not setting a new agenda, but only following the one that have been set already. And so that allow us to save resources, that allow us to save a lot of things while we keep focusing on how to achieve it.
Continental agenda, I would say.
That's what we need in Africa, but in Nigeria.
All right, you can join us and ask questions and also lend your comments on what we're talking about. We're looking at the youth and the African Union Agenda 2016. Do you think it's achievable? What do you think is wrong with Nigeria? He made his own statement. Do you agree with him? 1 out of 7 individuals around the world is in African. That's a good one, but we're still sort of lagging behind. What is responsible for that? And with these aspirations all written down, they're going to take it one after the other. 7 they are, to understand and how we hope to achieve that. So you can join us. 0905 0098000 is the number. Are you a youth? Do you think you have that zeal to ensure that these aspirations come to pass? We want to see that, live and see the Africa of our dream while we're still alive. Now, back to you guys now. While reading all of this, some people feel that we all write out. They say if you want to achieve something, write it down. If you write it down, it gives you that stuff to always go back there. You pointed out your own opinion why you think these individual agendas that our presidents have been putting down in past years, that it's not about doing stuff separately. It's about having a continental or a collective one. Now, would you say some people feel that this 2063 agenda is too ambitious? That is like I was talking to you behind cameras about the development goals of 2015, like 2020, and all of a sudden it changed from there to sustainable and everything because they saw that we're approaching it and it's not it's not really feasible. They achieved quite a few, but a whole lot of them hasn't been. So do you think it's not just been putting out everything? Someone will say, is it not better to focus on 1 or 2 things and achieve it
first
than
before you
putting out so many and you're chasing shadows?
The agenda is just 7, and for me, I think it's achievable. But that depends on each of the heads of states. How ready are they to implement it? Like we said, setting a long goal, it's not that we want to start achieving all of them. 50 years from now, next generation will come and then they're still doing it. But what role are we playing now? What formidable structure are we setting in place that will make the next generation to flourish? Now, what we need to do is, already we have an agenda, but what we need to do is look at where we need to start, do what we need to do, and then the next generation to come will continue to do it. So setting up a long goal for, like I said before, it's going to give us a long-term vision, because that's what leadership is all about. That's what this agenda is all about. So 2063, it's not far. But we'll look at it.
Now, let me come to Utakwa. Sorry, Utukwa. Sorry about that. Apologies. Now, we've got, even in a family, we've got our own various differences. And one would say that with the sit-tight dictators we have in Africa, can we ever have a unified front?
Of course we can. I think that was what even gave birth to the establishment of the Organization of African Unity,
Unity.
then,
Yeah.
which is now known as African Union, because as a continent, or as our Pan-Africanist fathers put it, they knew, they knew then that Africa cannot progress if we are divided. Now let's look at it. For example, intra-trade between African countries. Do you know if we trade amongst ourselves, the resources that we take outside Africa will drastically reduce? For instance, Nigeria spends 35 billion naira annually just importing ethanol from Brazil. We don't have pipelines that connect our fuel products to other African countries. And I think that no leader, no matter how hardline they are, will shy away from the impact of the Agenda 2063. And I just want to say that before this document was arrived at, all the leaders came together and they agreed. So it was not just something of this leader, this country say, okay, this is what we want to do. All the leaders in Africa came together to decide on this document. So it's binding on all of them. Okay. So we are hopeful that nobody will back out.
Okay, now 50 years ago, perhaps there were maybe an agenda set, for the African Union, when it was OAU still before it became an AU. Now, looking at it, the presidents of various African countries, last time I checked, the youngest president in the African continent is 44 years old of the DRC. Now, he is Joseph Kabila, 44 years. Now, the reason why he even became president, his father was assassinated, and then he took over power. Now, he's been there since 2001. And we're in 2016. That means he's ruled for like 15 years and counting. Now, 44 years. Now, what is the hope that in the next 47 years, or let me say 50 years, that we're having young people as our presidents now? Because as you said, all the leaders came and signed the document. Now, these leaders are 89, 77, close to 90. We have the 90s. Zimbabwe is 92.
Yes.
Mugabe is 92. Now, if all these old men and women, because Salif is there, signed this document. Now they're old people. What do they even care about the youth? Because they cared about us, they would have allowed us to, be in the position of authorities in their countries. Why would they sign a document that will reflect our own work in 50 years? Okay,
I just want to say this. Nobody is just going to involve you. You're going to involve yourself. If you look as part of our communique, we said we encouraged young people to join political parties. I think there's apathy amongst young people, and there's distrust. How many young people do you see who join political parties and actually want to go? If you tell a young person, go join a political party, they're like, the fathers will. We don't even try. We don't even try. So, yes, and I always say this when I refer to women empowerment. I always say that nobody is really going to sit and empower you. You have to take power by yourself. As women, for instance, let's look at Hillary Clinton. She doesn't need to go about talking about gender equality and all that. She has earned her respect because she went out there and she's doing what she knows how to do. She has empowered herself. So the same thing with young Africans in Africa. We can't wait for the government to create a Ministry of Youth Affairs, create a Ministry of Women Affairs, and then expect them to bestow powers on us. No, we have to get involved. And part of our communique, we've encouraged young people, build your leadership skills, join political parties, empower yourself economically, and then you can go out there and rub shoulders with the leaders, with the oldies, and push them out. In Benue State, for instance, David Mark recently had a run for his money when a young man, Dan Onje, contest. They had a rerun election. David Mark has been senator since 1999. Nobody has been able to push him, but you needed to go to Benue State and see what happened. I know he was shaking too. But that was a young man that empowered himself and was able to push. The next time, he might be lucky, or he will be lucky. Yes. So if other young people give people a run for their money. Okay, how many young people contested the last presidential election?
Did they give us the platform?
The platform.
Did they give us the platform?
This guy's really called the shots there. Like, one form of godfatherism tend to
exactly
peak and tell you this is who goes. Most of the youth that we even want to be part of all of this stuff might be used to be either instruments of, doing the campaign or doing all the dirty jobs, and they are not given the right opportunity to do that. Because we're just sitting back and say the youth should do this. We've got youth that can. People like you. How long did it take you to become to get to where you are, and you're speaking for other youth? Some youth might just sit at home like, they're giving you people money to start making noise while we're here. How can he get to that youth down there in the society? What sort of advocacy are you guys doing?
Okay. first, before I come to your question, let me also try to say something from what you say. There's a hope for African youths because I was in Ethiopia last year and I was surprised to see that the whole process, the African International Youth Day celebration was championed by young people. Young people.
Ethiopia, you said that.
Yeah.
You're a Nigerian.
I'm a Nigerian.
Okay.
Now,
Amen.
also, young people, we need to understand that preparation we cannot do without it. A lot of young people, we want to be empowered, but we are not prepared. Now, me personally, what I'm doing is preparation. And when opportunity comes, it's going to come. And so what we need to do as young Nigeria is to prepare ourselves. Now, talking about how can a young person who is listening now, maybe from one rural community, be part of this movement, we have a great news because one of the things we discussed in Ethiopia was that how can we reach out to the young people across Africa who cannot find their way to Ethiopia. And then AU created AU Club across Africa, and we have a mandate to get this club in all Africa, 1,000 clubs in all African countries. So now, AU Club, it was launched on 26th of March, and the Nigeria chapter has already started. We're still trying to create a foundation and consult stakeholders, and by the time it starts, it's going to be a platform from all Nigerian youth who are interested to come on board, be a part of African development, be a part of Nigerian development. So I'm glad to say that there is a hope for that average Nigeria.
It's functional now in Nigeria?
It's functional now.
How do we go about,
the easiest way, because it's just launched, but it's functional because we're already setting out the national committees and people who's going to start. And one of the things, we have a lot of programs that is coming up. We want to take a 1,000 march to create a publicity about the club, and also we're going to set up state coordinators, and we're drafting out community projects. Already we have 5 working groups that we created on Saturday. So the easiest way to get in touch now is to maybe before the end of this show, I'm going to give out my contact.
So like a website or something.
Website is still on.
Okay.
Yeah, it's still ongoing.
All right. Let me just take this one before I ask a question. Bayo from Lagos, with the freebies that African leaders receive from Western countries, how do you expect Africa to be free from their influence and thereby push an African policy?
Yeah, I needed to say that because when you talked about, having like a trade and everything, and I wanted to say we can't say that Africa is actually free from all the influence from China and the rest.
Influences.
So how
can we be free from their influence as we do business together?
If I get the question right, it's talking about African freedom, isn't it?
Yes.
Because some of these Western powers, they call the shots.
Okay.
So how can we be free from their shackles?
He said something that if we can encourage inter-African trade.
Yes.
If we begin to produce and buy our own
goods,
and by then we are already investing in our own product, we are developing, we are buying, we are using, we are consuming. So that way, we are going to be free from an outside person bringing and say buy. And say, no, we have our own.
So take it back to your country.
Yeah, take back to your country.
Interesting.
Okay. Now, you know that our leaders, when I read some of their biographies, they studied abroad. A lot of them have gone to the Western countries, They saw how developed their countries were. Now they're coming back to their own countries. They're still ruling. I'll call it ruling because that's what many African leaders do. They rule, they don't lead. Now, are you saying that we're just waking up to the reality of life? Because they already knew that, okay, the Western countries were already developed. So how come all of a sudden we are realizing that, okay, it's high time we started doing something with the youth? Why?
Okay, I'll just say something briefly to what Bayo said, freebies. We don't receive freebies in Africa. Whatever we get back is what was taken from here. From 1980 to 2009, Africa lost about $1.4 trillion to the Western world through tax evasion, corruption, and all that. And that is... when you compare the $60 billion annually we receive from these Western people, it is nothing compared to what we've lost. So part of the AU Agenda 2063 is we're going to block those leakages.
Okay.
Yes. We're going to block those leakages. We're going to ensure that what is for Africa stays in Africa and is used in Africa. So I think for that, that is that for now. So your second
My
question was...
now, our African leaders have gone overseas
Okay, yes.
and they've learned, they've seen what's happening there. But they come back to Africa and we are still...
I think it's part of the structure.
Okay.
A system that we've created. If you enter, if a typical Lagos man goes to London right now, he's not going to drop anything on the ground.
Floor.
Yes, because they have a system, they have a structure. And that is, that's my challenge with our corruption, corruption fight in Nigeria. We're going after individuals. It's good. If anybody has stolen money, they should bring it back. But if you don't create a system, people will keep stealing and you keep chasing them. But if you create a system where my file doesn't get lost in a civil service office where I have to pay money, if you create a system where we don't have cabals who decide that there should be fuel scarcity, you know, there are cabals everywhere in Nigeria. There are blocks of cabals everywhere. You go to the local governments, you have ghost workers, there are cabals, there are people fighting against the system. So if we create a structure and a system, and I think that a progressive leader, that's the first thing he will do. He'll come, look at it and say, okay, this is the challenge. How can I create a structure that will even check me? Check as a president, how can that structure check me? But you see, the challenge is there's no will. When a president wants to create a structure, or a leader wants to create a structure, they discover that that same structure is going to act against them. So they just relax. And so the whole thing, people are just forming blocks of cabals everywhere. So I think we need to look at it institutionally, structurally.
All right, we're going to take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the 7 aspirations, maybe break it down and how feasible that can be achieved. And, of course, this year's focus, I'm particular about that because it has to do with gender equality. And, of course, taking a cue from the recent, will I say, the paper that was thrown out of the National Assembly when it comes to women and everything, and what you guys are doing concerning that. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. Now, welcome back from that Did You Know short info there. We're still with Jamie Pajoel and Bemshima Utukwa. Of course, the convener of AU Agenda 2016. And, of course, we're looking at the Youth and African Union Agenda 2063, how you can be part of this movement to get to, achieve the 7 aspirations, that have been signed by our leaders. We have a caller for the segment from Abuja. Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show.
Yes. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. I'm listening to a series of programs that you presented today. I just want to follow up on the last point made by the last speaker.
Okay.
I totally bought into that. What needs to be done is I just want to demystify certain issues. That the problem we are going through here in Nigeria is not essentially different from anywhere else in the world. There's no difference between anybody in America or Europe and in Nigeria. What the difference is the point hammered on by the last speaker, is institutions. I'm a university professor. The reason why I would not molest my students or abuse them is because it doesn't matter how long it takes. If even it is 50 years, 30 years, 20 years coming, the institutions will catch up with me, and once they catch up with me, they will deal with me. It's not about individual. It's about the institution, building institutional building capacity. Some of the issues that you raised earlier or in your earlier program, they are very, very instructive. Africa, Nigeria will produce everything we do not need and import everything we need. That is the issue. And until we actually begin to address that, if you look at the youth today, tell me the program that is ongoing now about Nigerianization, you tell me how this will succeed. When every Nigerian student or person now chooses Indomie over to rice, amala, akpu, if you look at the ingredients that go into all these materials, they are not imported. Where do you go to import inputs to amala or all those Ghanaian food, etc., etc.? Until we eat Africa, drink Africa, wear Africa, we are not going to be able to, progress.
Well said.
Just look at the ladies, look at their hair. You are bringing Brazilian hair. A lady wrote to me in the UK, said, please, could you help me obtain some Brazilian hair? Then I innocently, I just went across and I asked somebody. I said, how much does it cost? He said something, 500 pounds for a Brazilian hair.
Yes.
And I wrote back to the person and I said, would it not be better to look for a Brazilian house girl and continue to cut off her hair every time it grows than to go and spend 500 pounds on Brazilian hair? You know, and finally to the other issue, excellent issue that you made earlier on. Everybody is a leader. Everybody is a leader. As all of you, the presenters are now, you are leaders in your own individual capacity.
Yeah.
I challenge any of you there, the ladies, to wear a G-string to the studio tomorrow. Drive around the street. Before 10 or 15 minutes, you see every girl dressing the way you dress.
Interesting.
You understand? So the idea that the leaders are different from, you categorize them into different areas is no. You know, everybody is a leader.
All right.
And we have to take responsibility for what we do. And finally, on the youth. I remember growing up in Nigeria in those days, they would say the problem of Nigeria is because we have been led by older men. You see, we are still scapegoating here. I do not see Ibori, James Ibori was how old when he became the governor? You know, Igbenedion was how old when he became the governor? The issue is not old, young, versus etc., etc. The issue is about believing in Nigeria.
Okay.
Is Nigeria a project that we all believe in, or does Nigeria exist on paper?
Thank you very much,
Thank
Prof.
you, Prof.
When a prof is talking, you understand. Thank you very much, Prof. But just to remind Prof that at the last conference, some of your resolve was that Pan-Africanism should be a core course in the higher institution.
Yeah.
So how
Is that effective?
How
Is that
do you
gonna be
derive
effective?
to that? And of course, we could buttress more on that.
Okay.
All right. Like I said, it's also going to start from institution. I mean, a lot of we don't have any course that teach us about Africa, Africanism in the university.
Prof can beg to disagree if you're not saying it.
And also at the secondary level, at the university level, we don't have that. So how can we learn about Africa when we don't have things that teach us about Africa?
So that was part of the result. But we're running out of time.
Yeah.
And you need to talk about this year's focus. Now, of course, if you cannot touch on the aspiration, of course, their website, we have 7 of them there that they might still buttress. But I'm particular about this year's focus, 2016, that has to be, about women and equality. So what prompted that? I mean, and of course, did that come? I know that this must have been talked about before the Senate actually did was recently they threw away a bill that was proposed that women should be given equal rights and all of that. So what are you doing in that aspect? Since they all agreed to this, so why is that a problem? Or is that something we're not understanding in that bill?
Okay, this focus here being on women, I think in Africa we've started realizing the potential that women carry.
Okay.
Because Africa, we're not backward because we are blacks, but because we've not adequately utilize the potential that our women carry. But for the bill that was thrown out, just like what he said, when people are afraid of setting up laws and that we fight against them. Like when we say that we want National Assembly to pass a law against early child marriage, and you have some of them getting married to underage.
Yes, exactly.
So they would not like to pass that.
Such bills, yes.
And so we have problem with National Assembly. We have leaders who are afraid to put laws that will fight against them.
And they're not negating what they actually
signed.
Because I don't know who's supposed to be held responsible. At the end of the day, when we sit back and say, this is what we intend to achieve. So, but sometimes I'm expecting someone to come back and say, okay, what we said, it was ambiguous. People didn't understand us. This is what we meant and everything, and try to explain it better. So what do you think is the thin line?
Okay, if you look at the communique, what we wrote there, we said the National Assembly should make laws that promote the AU agenda. I think that the National Assembly is also ignorant about this. That's the honest truth, and they need to be sensitized.
Good.
And I'm glad that this program, I know a lot of them will be watching it, and this is, we're taking our advocacy there. That's also how we're going to institutionalize it. We're going to do advocacy. We're going to go for advocacy to the National Assembly. Then I also want to say something about, the National Assembly is more of a networking. There are so many representatives, and if you want a bill to be passed, you need to lobby, you need to pass through, you need to get your other colleagues to support you. People are not just going to support something because it looks good or because it is good. No, you need to lobby. And I also want to say something. Africa right now is focusing on women. And I think that's the best thing that we've done to ourselves in a very long time. Because when we talk about gender equality, people just look at, okay, empowering this, and they look at sex. They look at, okay, male, female. But it's not that. You see, when you empower women, you're empowering more people.
Exactly.
And when more people are empowered, there's more productivity. Exactly. So the issue of gender equality or women empowerment or all that, sorry, I'm modeling it together. Gender equality is much more than, it's not women. Okay, I don't want the advocates to come after me. So, yes. Okay, so when you talk about women empowerment, any economy that wants to move forward must make sure that a large proportion of its population is productive.
So you're ensuring us that with your advocacy, you're taking it to the National Assembly.
To the National Assembly,
yes. Because we cannot, if they are failing, that means one of the aspirations will not be met.
Exactly.
Really,
and we're making sure that the president appoints a special advisor or special senior assistant that is going to drive the agenda.
Okay, let me just ask my final question. Now, in the beginning, like we said that 50 years is a long time, you know, why is it not shorter? But you gave us your reasons why it's 50 years. Now, 50 years ago, we're not where we are today. Now, 50 years to come, we'll have, of course, more developed than we are now. How do you think the upcoming generation would continue this agenda, this project? Because things are going to change. Now, when I was born, I used slates. Now we're using tablets. Now, in the years to come, we might even be using some invisible stuff.
What are they putting
so
in
what
exactly
continuity? Because 50 years from now, things are definitely going to change.
You see, people change structure because structure that was set is not favorable to them.
Okay, yes.
So if you set up structure that is favorable to me, why would I want to change it? I can only ride on it, and
change is constant.
Change is constant, but even if I have to change, it's not everything
that has to change.
That
all right,
has
you say government
change.
is really a continuum, and we
Well,
pray that
we
African
hope so.
leaders will learn that. So lastly now, so what are you doing? You're the youth leader, so to speak, and all, of course. So aside the conference that happened on Saturday, so what else? Where are we going from here to ensure that this is going? And of course, what out there for the youth? Like,
well, we have a lot of plans. Like I said, we are still doing a consultation with other delegates that went to Africa and AU for the lunch. But the best you can do is to keep in contact with us. You can add me up on Facebook. You can follow me up on Twitter, Jamie_Pajoel, so that when some of these plans has been reached, we will carry everybody along. You will not be left.
Lastly from you.
Okay.
A word there to a Nigerian youth or an African youth.
Okay. I just want young Africans to embrace the spirit that founding fathers had, that were able to break from the shackles of colonialism and apartheid. I want us to be fearless and courageous and to envision the Africa that we want and take steps to reaching that Africa.
Yeah, blackness is not lackness. Now, if you want to follow them, I want to know more about them, go to www.agenda2063.au.int or at African Union. You can also follow them on Twitter at African Union or hashtag Agenda2063.
Yes, let's continue the conversation on social media, hashtag AU Agenda 2063. You can also visit our website, Wave TV channel, www.waveng.tv for more updates. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
And we hope that the next time we'll be talking, you'll be able to say that, yes, out of all of these aspirations, we've achieved one, we've achieved two, and of course, up until 7. By 2063, how old? I mean,
I'll be like 80 years plus.
I'll be saying our children. So please do well. Thank you very much for coming. My name is Louisa Olani on behalf of Zika Onoma, Alani Adediwure, Amina Tayo, and the entire production team. Tomorrow will be our midweek edition of the program. It promises to be exciting as usual. Join us from 6:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. See you then and have a nice day. Bye-bye.